bite of me. Did you read about the tortoise and the hippopotamus? Help me out, I wanna be anonymous. Help me out, I wanna be anonymous. Help me out, 'cause I wanna be anonymous. Don't really matter anyway. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. Say that the world is empty.
Dozens of intelligence. And we start with that breaking news. As America gears up for the 4th of July holiday, dozens of intelligence officials are being told they are now out of a job. Their firings, which they were informed about just yesterday, are part of an effort ushered in by the new acting director of national intelligence, Bill Pulte. An intelligence official who spoke on condition of anonymity due to the potential for reprisal told MS Now these officials are being dismissed because leadership believes that they have withheld intelligence. That allegation, one former official refers to as, quote, absurd. It comes as former special counsel Jack Smith is breaking his nearly year-and-a-half-long silence, warning the country's rule of law is under unprecedented attack. In an exclusive interview with MS Now's Nicole Wallace, Smith said everything that we've seen, from the weaponization of the DOJ to the firings like the ones that we just learned about, could just be a preview of what we might see come the midterms.
I'm very concerned of what's going to happen in the next election, absolutely. My personal view is I think the state attorney generals have a tremendous role to play here. They can make sure the rule of law functions in their state. And I would also say that I think a thing that all of us can do is support election workers and election officials. The last time around, we saw that those people stood firm, and they were, in many cases, the difference. It's clear to me, anyways, that where I've seen publicly that those people are going to be put under great pressure. I would be ready to litigate everything. I would brainstorm, and I think they are. I get that sense. Every possible permutation, and don't let reason be a limitation. Imagine everything that could possibly be tried.
That Trump will do.
Yeah.
I want to bring in MS Now's Vaughn Hilliard, who helped break the news about the firings within the intelligence community, and two MS Now legal analysts, former Manhattan Assistant DA Catherine Christian and former U.S. Attorney Barbara McQuaid. Vaughn, starting with you, I want to start with what you've learned about these firings in the intel establishment. What more can you tell us here?
Right, Ariel. This is new reporting into MS Now from David Road and myself here. We're told that dozens of intelligence officials began receiving termination notices yesterday, and that more are expected here in the days ahead. And that this decision is coming directly from Acting Director of National Intelligence, Bill Pulte, who, of course, came into this role just this last month after Tulsi Gabbard left her post as Director of National Intelligence. He does not have intelligence history himself, but Bill Pulte, who was a housing agency director under the Trump administration for the last year, came into this position at the direction of President Trump. He is going to be in this post over the course of at least likely the next 200 days or so in this acting capacity, and he made clear that he would move forward in this sort of position to do the work of the Trump administration. And now what we are learning from an intelligence official is that those individuals who are being removed from their post are believed by leadership to be members of the, quote, deep state. Of course, this is calling into question across these 15 different intelligence agencies exactly what we could expect Bill Pulte to do in terms of potential declassification of intel material. We heard from President Trump just this week say that he wanted Pulte to declassify election-related material that he had in his possession from these more than 15 intelligence agencies. We know that these firings are coming just 2 weeks after there were 6 political appointees who had served under Tulsi Gabbard who were fired by Pulte himself. So exactly what type of information and intelligence was being withheld from Bill Pulte, I think that is a more, there's more to that question, because former intelligence officials that spoke to David Rode suggests that they have never heard of a situation in which individuals in the intel community explicitly withhold certain information as requested from them by agency heads or the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. And of course, we have not seen specific allegations made by the ODNI as it relates to any of these officials that are receiving these termination notices here. But it is significant in its own right that these, including career officials, are being fired here over the last 24 hours. And we are told by an intelligence official who is not going on the record out of potential reprisal that there are more expected firings across the Office of the Director of National Intelligence in the days ahead, Ariel.
All right, Vaughn, stay close, please. I know you will stay on top of that, and we're going to speak to you soon on a totally different topic. But, Barb, what's your reaction to Bill Pulte coming in and firing all of these intelligence officials for allegedly being part, as Vaughn reported, of the deep state?
I think it's incredibly dangerous, and I think it is a reflection of how partisan politics has infected our government. You know, there's no deep state. I worked as a national security prosecutor. I worked with some of these intelligence agencies.
Seriously?
They are there to provide their independent, objective, nonpartisan analysis of what they are seeing from raw intelligence to leaders. They don't care who is in the White House. What they care about is protecting the safety of the United States by sharing this information. And so what we see is Bill Pulte, with no background in intelligence, come in. He did not study the situation. If he had been there for months, did an assessment and concluded that there were individuals who were improperly working there or who were just too many, whatever the too much top-down bureaucracy, that would be one thing. But he shows up and immediately fires people. And we heard Donald Trump say this, that he would be unshackled to do exactly that. That seems to be that's what his mandate is. I submit that America is less safe today than we were yesterday.
Correction. We're so fucked.
Well, what do you think about your new boyfriend?
I love him. I love him. I love him. Yes, as we wait for the second clip. That is so wonderful. Can you say scared?
Boy, does Jack Smith sound nice and comfy to you guys, huh? To you ladies?
Well, so did this woman that just was talking. I was a member. We are nonpartisan. We don't care who's in office.
Now, I know this clip was really rather unrelated to today's topics, but I figured
it directly connects to today.
Oh, okay, I knew that. I was just making sure you knew that too. Hold on.
Oh, is that was?
Well, good to see everybody.
Connect.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this fine, beautiful afternoon of July 6th. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July Independence Day weekend. And it is good to be here. It is good to be here. And look at everybody over there on Rumble, crushing it, crushing the likes and the red pills over on Pilled. And you guys are right out the gate crushing the gold pill love. My goodness gracious. It is really good to be here. Hey, ladies.
Hey, dear.
In other words, more than one.
Mm-hmm.
How was your weekends?
I had a great time. I did nothing.
Mare, and you're feeling better, we hope.
I'm doing better. I'm doing better today. So, yeah.
How was your 4th? Did you get to celebrate it?
Yeah, we were going to throw a party, but I wasn't feeling good. So we scaled back to just our 6-ish close friends and our next door neighbor. And I still crashed out by 5 o'clock. Couldn't do anymore, but everybody else had a great time. So that was nice.
Well, we got a lot to get into. Little time. I know Feisty's going to need the entire time slot because we got a lot.
You know, when you asked me to join ARM, you said nobody's doing the digs like you do.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
I try every week to deliver.
And you do deliver. You oftentimes even over deliver.
I
If
think
that's
I
even
will.
a thing.
I think today will classify.
Okay, good.
And I don't know that people are ready for what I'm going to do.
I said this last night. I honestly to God, I said it last night during Patriot Theater. And then I was like listening to myself say it, which, I wish people would do more of. And I was like, I hope that didn't come out condescending as if people aren't ready to hear things. I really should have meant it, or I meant to say it in a way of like, maybe it's not time to address some of these issues that will need addressing at some point. And I didn't mean like this community. I just meant in general.
In general.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that. So, and what I was referring to was all sides of the triangle. All three sides of the triangle.
Well, we have all three sides front and center.
Yeah. So maybe, just maybe, today there might be some comfortable and some uncomfortable discussions that need to be had, will be had.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to be ready for what's about to happen because it's all landing. And not sure if it's starting this month. Actually, I do. But it is proving August is going to be hot. Very hot.
Well, it is hot right now. I'll tell you that. In Maine, it's hot. Like hot.
Hot.
Yeah, like physically hot.
That's all the hot air coming out of D.C.
Yeah.
It's permeating the entire country as they try to set the narrative for what's about to land on them.
Yeah.
They're going to struggle to control it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
And Ann Boyer is making an espresso for this one. That's wise. That's wise, Ann Boyer. And it's good to see you out there. We got some gold pill loving over there on Pilled. Holy cow. Dylan, thank you. God bless you, Dylan, for the 117 gold pills to start off the show. And always good to see you out there. Yep, 117. We got Tweety52 dropping a cookie. Thank you, Tweety. Thank you, General Buford, for 2 cookies back to back. And then we got Just Fed Up dropping a holy ship. Holy shit. Shout out to Just Fed Up, says, I'm sure it'll be a great show as always. Oh, you're in for a ride.
You're in for one heck of a ride.
You're in for a ride.
We'll have to see what everybody says when I'm done.
You can take a poll at the end.
Yeah, that's a good idea. No, wait till I leave, then take the poll.
Shout out to the poll feature over on Pilled.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to hear the blunt truth.
Sure you do. Thank you to Dixie with a pair of banger shades. God bless you, Dixie. As always, you're a regular contributor, as many of you are. Let's see here. We got Sean Joe. God bless Sean Joe. Good to see you as always. Thank you for the cookie. And then we get the Ballistic Mitchell dropping a pair of banger shades. Shout out to Mitch and good work, brother. You and Spin did a phenomenal job this weekend, and you hung in there. And I was, both Johnny and I are impressed. So keep up the good work out there. And Sean Joe with another cookie. Thank you, Sean Joe. Thank you, Ohio Kimmy with the cookie. Sean Joe with another cookie. Jax with a pair of banger shades. Says they're so fooked. That is, yes.
An understatement.
Yes.
But the way this is rolling out, I finally figured out why the delay. Oh my God. I think you're going to like the end.
Okay. All right. I'm bracing for a ride too, guys. So I'm right there with you. I know a little bit about what she's about to get into, but I don't know the whole thing.
No.
Sean Joe with another cookie. Thank you so much, Sean Joe. And 2 cookies, another cookie from Sean Joe, and a can from Jack says, I'd pay good government gold to see the look on Martin Bormann and Joseph Goebbels' face. I'm right there with you, Jax. All right.
It's currently tarred and feathered, so doesn't look so hot.
Before we get into what you're going to get into, Pulte. A lot of people were wondering whether or not Pulte is actually going to follow through, and
Well, I have never had a doubt that he was going to follow through, but
He's
I want to set it.
boyfriend. You're biased.
Well, maybe so, but it was because of what he's doing. I like strong men in my life, okay? That didn't come out right.
Came out just
I know
fine.
what you meant.
Yeah.
So remember where he sits. He's at the head of the intelligence community.
That's right. But he
The
has no
head.
experience. Feisty.
Yeah, neither does Jay Clayton, but he's going to be there in August, supposedly. So we've got the head of the intelligence community telling you that IC officials withheld evidence. Yeah. You just sent the entirety of the machine into a whirlwind.
Definitely.
And I will show you how exactly as we go through this deck.
Oh, lovely. And that
Very,
means I gotta,
very last slide explains it.
That means I gotta. All participants can share. Boom. Thank you, Jax, for the cookie. Says I can hear those two right now. That damn Donald Trump. He says, Jax. And then Truthful Mama with a cookie says uncomfortable may not be easy, but most often necessary. It's in that uncomfortable that growth usually takes place.
Exactly.
Yeah, Truthful Mama, that was a based comment.
Very perfect.
100%. Well said.
So remember that comment as I go through the deck, okay?
Okay.
Maybe you should pin that comment so people are reminded.
It's a good one.
All right. Take us for a ride, Feisty.
I'm going to take you for a ride. So I'm going to start out.
Can I ask three, before you roll in, let me do 3 questions that will help the audience, I think, with the beginning of the deck.
Is the frog's ass watertight? Go
Absolutely.
ahead, Mayor.
Okay. Explain to the audience who the first pope is and why he is considered, what the phrase Jesus used, and that's why he's considered the first, the rock.
That's actually on a slide.
I know,
Yes,
but
So he said,
beginning that,
okay,
that
so let me
She's
set that
setting the
whole
stage.
Let me set up that whole stage. Oh, no, get your other 2 questions.
Okay, that one, and go with this one, and then I'll flow in.
Again, I'm eating round 2, 2 weeks in a
You're
row.
eating round 2.
All right.
We got this.
I'm still
So-
here.
Wait a minute, I'm trying to find my deck. I lost my deck. Lost my marbles.
The second one was, what does Catholicism mean, as in unity?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see John
And-
Paul, Benedict, Francis, and Leo.
When did the first fracture, like with the other denominations, nothing, it was only Catholics until which
1054.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
I just thought it might be helpful, since we're going to talk about popes and what the job of a pope is, if they understood what it's based on, basically. I thought it might be helpful for
Yep.
those of us that were not raised Catholic, because I've had to go back and learn this stuff in the last 2 years so that a lot of my research made more sense.
Likewise.
Well, hopefully, and this isn't about Catholic theology. I hope you recognize that. While it does help in understanding what's going on, it has nothing to do with the tenets of the religion, what we're watching. But I am happy to answer those questions. So let's start with the first question. Why was Peter so important? You got to set the stage there. So they're coming out of a major gathering, and Christ says to his apostles, "Who do you say I am?" And they respond with a bunch of, well, they say this, they say that. He said, well, that's cool, but who do you say I am? And Peter said, you are the Messiah. You are the Son of God. And Christ responds with, you could not have known that unless the Holy Spirit had told you that. And then he goes in the dissertation. Your name is now Peter. He changes Simon's name to Peter.
Yeah.
He says, your name is now Peter, which means rock, by the way, Petra. Your name is Peter. On this rock, I will build my church. I will give you the keys to heaven. What you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. What you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. So in other words, he set up the first pope, the religious practice that would be followed here on earth after his resurrection. So why is that important? Because the structure of religion is from God.
Right.
Okay. And that the hierarchy, how that all comes together. And the second question you asked, when was the first schism? That was in 1054. That was the left-right schism between the Eastern Orthodox and the Romans. And it literally comes down to whether or not the Pope has supreme authority. And the East is saying, well, we're all in this together, which is true. That's the fraternity part where you use your various churches, your cardinals. They are counselors to the Pope, but there is a supreme authority as established by God. So that was the first schism.
I think it's important to tell people what a schism is, just in case.
A schism is where you break from something.
It's a division between people, all right?
Yeah, you take a break from whatever the established norm is. Right. So one could say our society is in schism, right, from our norms and values. So your third question was, what does Catholic mean? It literally means unified. So when Constantine made Christianity legal in the 300s, the first thing they did is they got the religion at the time was called the Way. All the different sects came together in Nicaea, and they, rather than focus on what separated them, what divided them, they decided to focus on what unified them, Catholic, and they wrote the Nicene Creed. And I encourage everybody to go and read the Nicene Creed. I mean, it starts right out with, it's our profession of faith. It's all the truths of our faith. We believe in one God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, goes down through the litany.
Right.
So keeping in mind what Christ set up through Peter, the issue of the schism in 1054, the East-West schism, and the fact that the unified church is something that God ordained and what he wanted.
What sparked this dig?
The excommunication.
Yeah. People are misinterpreting why the
people are trying to figure out exactly what happened. They're painting, and I'm going to show my screen, right?
Well, I thought it would be good because I grew up in a Methodist church, and I just accepted there was a pope, but I never until recently needed to even understand the hierarchy, how that worked. I just knew there were cardinals, bishops, because I'd heard the term. So that's why I kind of wanted to just take a split second there and set that up.
Right.
I thought it might help people because we're looking at a historical thing.
This is historic what's going on. Yes. And when you go backwards, one of the things Pope John Paul II did was talk about this. I mean, Pope John Paul II, everybody's favorite pope, right? He spent his entire papacy theologically realigning the church. What is the truth of our doctrine? He also said that we need interfaith dialogue because, as Christ said, all will come to know the Lord. In order to do that, we've got to put down the barbs and the swords, right?
And you saw the Newsmax article that was sent to me by a friend. Pope Leo urges U.S. to welcome immigrants in July 4th appeal. But was that taken out of context?
It was way taken out of context.
Because,
exactly.
And ever since you presented that to me, I now know to read down further in the article. And
actually, to not just read down further, it's helpful to go find the exact quote.
Well, yes, and go figure. I read down the article, and what does it say? Which they could have easily titled the article,
right?
This, where he says he also called on them to help improve conditions in migrants' their home countries, so that fewer people feel compelled to leave their home countries.
What you sent me is actually two-part. One, let's bring peace about in the world so people don't feel the need to leave.
Right.
Two, for those that do leave, let's work on assimilation, something that has been long since forgotten.
Right.
We've got all these little enclaves all around in our societies, but nobody's assimilating, so we're not advancing a moral and sound culture.
But why would Why would Newsmax title their article, Pope Leo urges U.S. to welcome immigrants? That's
because
wow.
Newsmax loves, just like I've seen it on the left and the right, Sean. You and I have talked about it. Everybody leverages what the Pope says to fuel angst. And especially in the time where we've got an excommunication sitting front and center, it's not hard to see how all of this plays together.
And I can prove to everybody, too, because, it's important to note that Feisty's not just some, sycophant for Catholicism, because even though she's Catholic, and please correct me if I'm wrong about this, Kathy, but she also was at one point very dismayed by the church and very, would you even say disenfranchised at one point?
There were things that happened in my life where I actually walked away from the church for 15 years.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I was also, like a lot of people, not real settled with Pope Francis until I did my research.
And a lot
so
of
now
people
I sound more
aren't.
like a sycophant than I ever did, because I never was.
Right.
But when I started
I meant that
to
with
see,
the most respect too, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. What I see now is something very different. And I know most people don't agree with me. And that's fine.
Yep.
It'll be made known here. In fact, it's being made known in real time right now. But what I wanted to highlight is that when we say post-conciliar church, you're talking post-Vatican II. A lot of people saw Vatican II as destroying the church. It actually didn't. I want to show you something, if you don't mind.
I don't think people understand or
let me show you.
Understand the concept of Vatican II.
This is Vatican II books. These are the documents from Vatican II. This book was printed. It was a second print when I got it in 1975.
All right, what does Vatican II even mean?
I'll show you in a second.
Right.
These are two books that are used in seminaries for teaching about the documents in Vatican II. Okay? I've read the documents. I've read the material that's used in the seminaries. And all I can say is a lot of people have a lot wrong. So what is Vatican II? There were two councils. The first one was in the 1850s. That council set up or talked about, because there was a huge upheaval within the secular world, just like there was in Vatican II. There was a huge shakeup, and they settled where was the church going despite all of this. Vatican II did much the same thing. You've got the Cold War, and you've got communism spreading. So again, they met. One of the things they recognized in Vatican II is that you don't promulgate the faith if you're doing it in a language people don't know. And since Latin had already, they started teaching it in so many countries, they said, do it in the vernacular. In other words, do it in the language of the country you're in. That immediately sent people reeling, because it's liberalizing the church. The other thing they came out with is they said, the sacrifice to the mass needs to be more reverent, but it needs to be with the people. So one of the big holdouts for the traditionalists is the priest used to face away from the congregation. That's why if you look at their vestments, the pictures on the back, because they would face the tabernacle when they would do the praise.
That makes sense.
And Vatican II said, no, you can face the congregations, because the priest with the congregation rises to the Lord's miracle. So, and there can be debate on that, and I'm not here to debate that. I'm just saying there were things that happened in Vatican II that people weren't ready for. As a change management expert, I can tell you, when you make a hard shift, when you make a hard anything, the first thing you get is rebellion. And one thing the Catholic Church has been really bad at since Vatican II is explaining their position. They were very rigid, very do as I say, and they went down that whole road of excommunications and all this other stuff. Pope John Paul comes in and he says, wait a minute. No, we need fraternity. We need unity. And we do that with brotherly love. And that was Pope John Paul. And his famous quote, be not afraid, open wide the doors of Christ. And I've got the full quote, but I'm not going to go through that. But nevertheless, he's saying, let's get recentered on what's really important. Pope Benedict came in, and these two, Pope Benedict and Pope John Paul II, Saint Pope John Paul II, were very, very close. And I don't know that a lot of people know that. They spent a lot of time together theologically. Pope Benedict was ordered or charged by Pope John Paul II to look at our catechism and get it reordered, which it is. You can look it up online. It's fully annotated. It's searchable, something we've never had before. We've had this major book of all of the codes and what our doctrine is, but now you can actually search it, and they even will bring up topics that are similarly related. So he did that. When he became Pope, he came to the United States in 2008, and I remember this distinctly. At the time, I was a Eucharistic minister, and although I was starting my disenfranchisement, if you will, he came, and one of the first things he said, he was very dismayed at the state of the American church, very dismayed, and he left us a list of 22 things that we had to change right away. He was so disgusted. Number one was get the tabernacle back on the altar, right? Among other things. There were, like I said, 22 things. He also said that the English translation of our prayers, not using his words, using my words, they sucked. And so he started to rewrite them. He's the person that rewrote the Our Father. The Our Father has been accepted all across the world, except in the English-speaking churches. It's an act of defiance, right? So then in 2011 was a big year. It's when Vigano went public with the corruption he and Gianni were finding. He and Vigano tried to get the church leadership to do something about it, and they ignored him. So he went public. Vigano went public, and the immediate response was he got fired.
Right.
And he got fired. Pope Benedict says, wait a minute, I need you to go to the Americas. I need you to investigate McCarrick. So that famous 2018 document that he dropped was that part of that investigation that he had given Pope Benedict. In the same time, Pope Benedict had 3 bishops investigate all these allegations from not just Vigano, but whistleblowers that were coming forward. They delivered to Pope Benedict in December of 2012 a 300-page dossier that laid everything bare. The sex, the drugs, the money laundering, all of it, all the illicit behavior. It was a 300-page dossier. Pope Benedict read it and he said, this is beyond my papacy. And he resigned. Now, why is that important? Because a seat that's vacant there's no authority to the dicasteries. All right. So the Curia lost all authority. When he resigned, their work stopped immediately. So he effectively
shut it down.
He shut it down.
He shut it down.
He performed a coup against the Curia.
So what we're talking about for the audience, we're talking about a shadow group within
the shadow government.
A shadow government. And
a deep church.
And the way, like, the Pope is technically within that group, he's a monarch symbol. The easiest way in my brain for it to work, the chain of command is a lot like a military chain of command. Like you were saying that Vigo went public, so then he got fired because he, and then there's repercussions for all the different things. Perhaps that's an easier way to think of it, maybe.
The Secretary of State at the time that fired Vigano would have been one of those people that least wanted that information out.
I bet.
And you'd have to go through my 4 shows that I did on the Vatican D codes, but I laid it out in that. So yes, you're right. When Vigano went public, it was a shock to the Curia because what had been kept secret and under the covers, if you will, even though things were getting out and people were starting to grumble, the church did what they always do. They put the blinders on, acted as if nothing was wrong.
My whole life, they suck at PR.
Yeah. Yeah. So Pope Benedict, after reading that document, he said, this is beyond my papacy. He resigns. And he prepared that report for his successor. When Pope Francis became Pope in March of 2013, Pope Benedict personally handed Pope Francis that report.
Because he kept it in a safe, right?
Yes, he kept it. It was never published. We only have a few understandings of what was in that report, but we have never seen the report. So he personally hands it to Pope Francis. Now, this is really important because Pope Francis has been painted as an infiltrator, a communist. You know, you go down that whole list. But when you look at his, and I'll show some of it here coming up, but when you go down his time as Pope, he was probably one of the greatest reformers of the church ever. He changed so many things, trying to bring back transparency, trying to rebuild it as an institution of trust. And I'll go down through some of that. So that's important because Pope Leo, when he became Pope, you can't dismiss Pope Leo the Great, who was a great reformer, but Pope Leo the 13th, his namesake, was also facing a lot of the same issues. Pope Leo the 14th came in, and one of the first things he said was he was going to continue the work of his predecessor, which by the time Pope Leo came in, they thought, you know, Pope Francis is gone, we can stop. No. He's continuing the work. So immediately after he said that, you started seeing his words taken out of context. Does that set this up for you, Sean?
I think he had to run real fast.
Okay. So that's why I spent some time on the title slide. I wanted to set the stage. Because when you go back and you look at Pope Leo's writings, I actually read his doctoral thesis from 1987. He's an Augustinian, which St. Augustine of Hippo was very much involved with governance, okay? Read City of God, you'll see it in that 900-page book of his, Monstrosity. But Pope Leo very much is not just an Augustinian, but he very much believes in the premises that St. Augustine put forward. And there's a lot of focus in his doctoral theses on governance and how to retain governance. It's not enough to be a church that is there for the missionary, but there's got to be structure, there's got to be governance. Without the governance, the church goes astray. And so seeing that and comparing it with the emphasis of a lot of the things he's written and discussed, you can see there's a direct connection between the two, right? So he made the quote. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Pope John Paul II, famous quote, open wide the doors of Christ, be not afraid, right? Pope Benedict had some interesting quotes, which I'll show you. Pope Francis, please remember to pray for me, which I want to keep in your mind. He said, with you I am Christian, for you I am bishop. So those quotes are important. With you I am Christian, for you I am bishop says, I'm in fraternity with you. We are Christians, but I'm the Pope. I get the last say. That already is shaking up the curia. You can see how that works, right?
Yes, very much.
Okay. So when you go down through his time, he's been in leadership roles for quite a while. He was the prior general of the Augustinians. He was in charge of the governance. When he talks about freedom under grace, if this book of his that's coming out September 15th are all of his writings, pre-papal writings. I can't wait to get it. But from what I can see, from what's been written about it, again, reiterates what's in his thesis, his Augustinian background, and his leadership pathway, if you will. So that's going to be an interesting read. And then, of course, now we're defining his papacy. He's asserting governance over a system that was largely set up by his predecessors. Do you see that? So I'm taking you straight into Pope Leo the 13th, Pope Leo the 14th. Pope Leo the 13th was not an Augustinian, just so you know. But he believed that the Pope had the absolute rule ex cathedra. In other words, he was an absolute monarch over the church, which is true. He says, yes, but there's got to be fraternity. So where Pope Leo the 13th tended to be a little more rigid, he's saying, let's use some diplomacy and make sure that we keep the rule of law. Where he had the rigid bureaucracy, he's saying, no, we're going to bring it all centralized. You can have a counselor kind of relationship, but I'm still the Pope. So he's softening the rigidity. And then the intellectual standardization, he's saying, look, I'm not going to standardize things that don't belong in our doctrine. And I will take hard lines, right? Example, the excommunication.
Yeah.
And then he relied on, Pope Leo XIII relied on a centralized curia. He's taking it a step further. Pope Leo XIV has taken it a step further. He's putting people in a diplomatic role. I know you don't understand what the papal nuncio is. That's a role that's really interesting. Vigano held it. But a nuncio for the Catholic Church, they don't have an FBI. They don't have a CIA. The nuncio is an ambassador role, right? So when you appoint a nuncio to the various countries, but they also have an investigative role. And he's expanding the role of the nuncios. Already in the first year of his papacy, we're seeing that. So that's interesting. He's got his eyes and ears into the individual diocese.
Yeah.
Which is important because the church has become fragmented because everybody kind of went off and did their own thing.
Right.
So
and that happened in the late 60s to early 70s. There was a lot going on in Italy, but that's another discussion.
That's another whole discussion.
That's an entire episode.
Which is why when Pope John Paul II was elected, it was earth-shattering because it was the first time that we had a non-Italian pope.
Right. And
because of all the corruption that had happened from the 50s through the 70s, they're like, no. We're not going to go down this route. And they hired a Polish guy from behind the Iron Curtain who was a theologian. That was not happenstance.
Right.
Right. So they, for the first time, took Vatican out of Italy, which is really intriguing. So when you compare Pope Leo to the Augustinian philosophy, they both have very similar positions. Augustinian philosophy is top down, but with an air of fraternity, which is exactly what Pope Leo embodies with You I Am Christian. So for You I Am Bishop is, I'm in charge of the curia. You will do as I establish is the right way to go. Nuncios, like I just explained, canon law uniformity. There's some really big things that have been happening within the Superior Court of the Vatican. And which is, I don't get into Cardinal Burke here in a minute, but that is interesting considering the almost rift between he and Cardinal Burke. So, and then his goal is to get people aligned, because trust in the institution doesn't happen because somebody says thou shalt. It has to be demonstrated. That's a huge insight. If it's got to be demonstrated, then you need to pull the Band-Aid off, right? You cannot govern effectively with secrets.
Right.
And that is his position. So that's going to be big moving forward. So the present disorder, what is interesting that I noticed, it wasn't just the excommunication. There were three things that happened in the last several months that are really important to take note of. In January, he held a consistory where the cardinals came together over the synod. And normally it's a more free-flowing, open dialogue kind of setting. Pope Leo pretty much took it by the arm and said, no, you'll do it this way. And he seated people at tables in breakout study groups, which really upset, especially the traditionalists, cardinals like Cardinal Burke, because they wanted to talk about the upcoming excommunication. They wanted to talk about some of these hot button topics, like what Cardinal Ratcliffe did in London. They wanted to talk, and Pope Leo didn't give him the opportunity. Why would he do that? He's preventing the factions from aligning.
Right. And getting their stories straight.
Getting their stories straight and all of that. So that was an interesting thing, and there was an interesting result of that. The second thing that happened at the meeting in January, he seated Cardinal Ratcliffe and Cardinal Burke at the same table, two polar opposites, right? Cardinal Ratcliffe is very liberal. Cardinal Burke is an extreme traditionalist. He seated them at the same table because he wanted the opposing views to talk.
Mm-hmm.
So Burke is upset over the structure of the meetings. Ratcliffe in June, early June, decided to hold a mass in London. He didn't actually do the homily. He didn't. He read. He read. No, he read he did the homily. He didn't read the scriptures that were used. He didn't actually perform the service, but he was there, and the mass was for two homosexual men celebrating their 50th anniversary, which is completely against Catholic doctrine.
Right.
Totally and completely. Pope Francis reiterated that. Pope Leo reiterated that. So that is in complete defiance to Rome, right? Not only that, they used text from a Belgian set of text that was clearly not sanctioned by Rome. In fact, Rome said you can't use that text, so they did it anyway. So it was an out-and-out rebellion that happened in London, which is interesting because, well, at the time, let's just say, as we know, the UK is in a hot mess right now, right? But there's also a lot of hot messing going around in the church in London. Another bishop has been accused of sexual abuse. He's been removed. We got another person in there, that Moto, Archbishop Moto, who's he's there but not there. He's the administrator for that bishop that has been removed from liturgical authority. So there's so much happening, and there's been no comment out of Rome or out of this archbishop regarding what Ratcliffe did. Now, that said, this is an act of defiance. Typically, something like this is handled a little more quietly. It's a disciplinary issue, and discipline is handled more quietly before it gets public. They try the diplomatic route, which is funny because Burke sat at the table with Ratcliffe, so I can almost see, although there's no proof of it, almost see a back channel, if you will. So I'm just going to point that out. So between that, and then of course the SSPX schism, where they're excommunicated, these three things you can test on a timetable that I think will prove a strategy of his, because you got to ask the question, why is he so silent? Well, if you let your factions kind of heat up, debate, the open air debate that they couldn't have in the consistory, now you got it on podcasts and in writing, all this stuff. Let them kind of gel. Let them kind of come out, which looks like that's what he's doing.
Honestly, it looks like the same playbook Trump uses when he's dealing with
It's identical.
It's identical. That's why when you showed me the slide deck, I was like, oh, he's really using the Trump playbook on them.
Right.
It looks like a shadow government. It looks like he's exposing them. And it's extremely strategic.
Well, it's exposing to him who his factions are, right? What he's actually dealing with, right? And so there's a theory, though. That's a great theory. It's a strategic theory, but you can't let it go too long because you'll lose momentum, your governance momentum. So looking at what he's resolving himself to do with the not resolving these issues strategically, but in the meantime, he's looking at who his factions are, and as he considers the restructuring of the Curia, that plays in heavily. I don't see Ratcliffe being in charge of the dicastery of the faith after what he did in London. Do you see where I'm going? But I also don't see Burke.
Can you explain that a little bit more? What was that word that you just used?
Dicastery of the faith?
Yeah, what does that mean?
It's basically the agency for faith promulgation, for the things that define faith.
It's a very big responsibility.
Didn't even know that there was an agency that does that. And I'm going to ask the question right here that I think is on everybody's mind. And you and I discussed this previously off camera. And I think people will begin to recognize that change is happening once we see a separation from the church and this LGBTQ people
Whatever.
that are propagating some sort of, I don't know. Well, it's a religion, right? So
It's the liberal commie infiltration.
right, but they're using
reference.
the Catholic Church, aren't they? Aren't they kind
They're
of
using all churches.
right?
Well, it's not just the Catholic Church. I think you can find this in all
Aren't they
traditions.
going to have to denounce that kind of I mean, that's overt blasphemy, right?
Well, that's where I'm going to, because you don't just have it within the religious traditions. You've got it within governments. It's an infiltration, right? It's an inversion where you
Right.
come in from the inside and destroy the institution. The church is in no better, is in no different a situation than our federal government is.
Right.
That's
right,
what
it's-
we see. But
that's exactly the same story. So one of the things, and think through this, because Trump became the master of this strategy, when you can't really assert your authority in secret. You have to let these institutional issues kind of rise up and get talked about.
Operation Show Your
Your
Ass.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what we're.
That's what Pope Leo is doing right now.
Yeah.
Granted, a much smaller population, but Trump is doing the exact same thing Pope Leo is doing.
And the media treats him just like they do Trump. They deliberately
Right.
take him out of
They
context.
take him out of context.
And I've
Doesn't mean
shown
we agree with everything he says, but a lot of it is out of context.
Right.
and I've showed multiple examples of this and again, for anyone just joining us, Kathy showed me a while back. I presented a Gateway Pundit article that said that was, addressing some sort of quote feud between Pope Leo and Trump. And then you said, rightfully so, read down, listen to what he himself said, and tell me that that's what you heard was the title of this article. And I heard it and I was like, oh my gosh, light bulb moment.
And then what on top of that is what Pope Leo said came way before the issue with Trump. So the media
And
painted
he
it
even
as
said
Leo was
himself
in.
that he doesn't
Yeah.
have any issue with Trump.
Right.
Because somebody asked him that question.
He has no issue.
I have no issue with him, but how does a pope express protect humanity? Because the pope, that's what a pope's job
That's his
is.
role. That's his
right?
job.
Is to endorse humanity, but at the same time, the pope would have to. I'm looking at this from a normie lens. The pope would have to ignore a globalization attempt to infiltrate and destabilize nations like America exploiting immigrants, right? So if I'm somebody who I have blind hatred towards popes in general, that's what I'm going to hyper focus on. I'm going to hyper focus on, well, why isn't he addressing the globalization of exploiting immigrants, right? Again, I'm just presenting this from a normie lens. And I put myself in that camp as well, by the way. If that makes any sense.
So I'm going to sit here because Ben Diego says the People Audience Hall. Sean, you've seen what I've shown you in the decode of the audience hall.
Yeah, the snake's head.
The snake and the
diamondback,
sixes
yeah.
and what the warning was and what's going on. This is another example where you can take a picture and make it say anything you want. They did the same with Pope John Paul sitting in church with the upside down cross saying Satanist. No, it's a Petrine cross. That's St. Peter. Remember? St. Peter was
That's how he
crucified
was crucified.
upside down.
Yeah.
He said he was not worthy to be crucified in the same
The
manner.
same manner as his Lord.
He requested it to be upside down.
And the Petrine cross is something a lot of people wear, and it's the upside down cross because they're not worthy of the same as the Lord. But again, using your inference, using the public discussion to infer something with a flat picture without looking into it has led a lot of people to believe the most horrendous things about the church and the most ridiculous, easily debunked things about the church.
Well, I wouldn't say easily. Easily
so
from yours because you're very well versed on this stuff. But like when you get Q dropping pictures of,
But again, Q didn't say a word. Go back and look at those.
I know.
He let people take it where they wanted. Nobody researched it because nobody wanted to research the Vatican.
This is what
That's not
needs
Q's
to be
fault.
discussed. Right.
Right. So another post Q put out, it was about the $225 billion. I went through 20 years of documents because they're all public. Never has the church had $225 billion. What did that represent then? That was the money laundering through the Institute of Religious
Godfather
Works.
3 reference too.
Godfather 3, totally on display there with that.
Why I keep going back and harping. People need to understand what happened from the 40s up in the 70s,
Right.
in Italy and the Vatican and all of that stuff, and why we had that. That's a huge important component.
You know, another thing too, because I looked into. It's kind of unrelated, but I'm going to bring it back to the Vatican in Italy. So I looked into the board, who sits at the table in the city of London, and people would be amazed to learn that there are many Muslims that actually sit on that table.
Because the city of London is no longer in charge of the city of London.
Right. So
and hasn't been for some time.
Right. So people rightfully asking, well, why would the city of London, if they're at the tippy top, why would they be contributing to their own demise by destabilizing London through using immigration? Right? Why would they be ushering in immigrants by the boatloads? Hold on. And then people now ask the same question regarding Italy.
Right.
Italy as
Same
well.
thing.
Same scenario where I think there is a head of the snake that's even higher, that's allowing for these two major metropolitan areas like the City of London, like Vatican, that are also simultaneously being destroyed, just like D.C., which is, all, by the way, on the triangle, on the pyramid, right? So all three of those locations are arguably being destabilized from within using immigration. Correct?
Right.
Yeah.
So, just to answer that one question, what's going on? Well, how do you square, and this actually comes in later into the deck, how do you square City of London being the heart of everything when they were exposed in 2012 and are no longer even in charge of the interest rate of the U.S. dollar since 2023? How do you square everything being about this monolithic City of London when in fact their power has been stripped for almost 2 decades?
How is it so easy for Trump to bypass the Lloyds of London?
Because they don't have the power they had.
They had, right. So just food for thought for everybody out there.
Food for thought. And let me continue with this text.
Please.
So I'm seeing a strategic thing that Pope Leo is doing. He's letting these factions argue, talk, debate. There's all kinds. There's no want for a podcast over what's going on in the church. In the meantime, what he's doing is he's really checking carefully because his role is in operationalizing the governance that's been set up before him. So here's where I put in the quotes, and this particular quote is actually truncated here. But this is from a 1969 radio program. And I'm going to read the whole thing in total.
I just didn't want people to think that we're ignoring those prescient questions and concerns that people have, as I have, you've had, we've all had. I just didn't want people to think that we're not addressing that. That's all. And yeah, Sean Joe, Roberto Calvi. Let's not forget when he was swinging from the bottom of that bridge in London.
Because he was the problem, right?
Right.
Who is Roberto Calvi? For those that don't know, he was the president of the Institute of Religious Works. He was murdered. And they tried to make it like he committed suicide. The Vatican under Pope Francis reopened that investigation and said that, this is BS. He was murdered. So
it's not exactly Catholic to kill yourself. Weird.
Right.
It's not even that. What they were doing is covering up.
Yeah.
And as a result of Calvi, they reopened up an investigation into a young girl that went missing, presumed dead, that was abducted as a warning.
Yeah.
So there's a bigger thing going on there. So anyway, this quote from Pope Benedict is from 1969. He was on a German radio show. He was reflecting on the turbulence and the cultural shifts that were happening. Now, mind you, this is after Vatican II. We're in the peace love era, right? The make peace not war, the whole hippie revolution, that whole thing. We've got a huge social upheavals happening, and he was reflecting on these, and he offered a quote. Well, he said it was painful, but he said that there would be a painful but necessary purification process that leads to a spirituality revitalized church. His exact quote: "From the crises of today, the church of tomorrow will emerge. A church that has lost much. She will become small, will have to start afresh more or less from the beginning. She will no longer be able to inhabit many of the edifices she built in prosperity. As the number of her adherents diminishes, she will lose many of her social privileges. But when the trial of this shifting is past, a great power will flow from a more spiritualized and simplified church." That's a big deal, saying that in 1969.
Yeah.
As we watch that come true since 2005, 6, 10, in that era. So that directly links to this report that he had 3 archbishops investigate, right? The 300-page report about all the shenanigans going on in the Curia. It directly links to what Pope Francis had been doing to restructure and realign governance, and now what Pope Leo is putting together. So one of the things I always found it struck me, when Pope Francis became Pope, from the balcony, he must have said it a dozen times: "Please don't forget to pray for me. Pray for me. Pray for me. Please pray for me." He said it so many times, knowing that Pope Benedict personally handed him that 300-page dossier. You know that there was a summary of what was going on, and he comes out on the balcony and goes, "Pray for me. Please pray for me," right? Because he had a huge task ahead of him.
Presumably, it's full of crimes.
Yeah, the entire thing was, yes. Yeah, it laid bare everything.
And that's global crimes. That's the harder, like,
from within the church, it's global crimes.
Like that's a lot. That's a lot.
So one of the big things to tie this in is, under Pope Benedict, McCarrick had been pretty much sent to his room, right? He was told he was restricted. But when Pope Francis came in, McCarrick acted as if Pope Benedict had done nothing. And he started picking up his role again. And in 2013, 14, McCarrick was known as a, quote, prolific fundraiser for the American government. He worked heavily with the Department of State. Can you say blackmailing?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yep.
So when Pope Francis found out about it, he pushed him off he put him back out to pasture, and an investigation started. But it's interesting because while the Catholic Church found him guilty of those crimes, secular law said, well, he's too old to hold on trial. So it was the secular law that let down the people.
Yeah.
Now he's dead, right? Dead men can't do anything. So I find this interesting as we come into the timeline. And then looking at Reconstruction, because his job as Pope Leo's job, would be to continue that work. He already said he was going to do it, but he's going to continue that work. And it's all about governance. And that governance is important because you've got theologically realigned. You've got the Mass and our faithful practices are realigned. You've got the Curia and governance realigned. Now his job is to implement all that. And he's doing it with a strategic chaos. Isn't that cool, by the way? Mm-hmm. I think that's cool. So there's a risk to what he's doing because the re-centralization of the synod, which was against, Burke was really upset about, he let that surface. And then he wrote a letter to Cardinal Burke saying, congratulations on your 50 years. And then told Cardinal Burke, yeah, you can do the Latin Mass at the Vatican again. Pope Francis had restricted it. And the nuncio overreach, there's a lot of people upset about the nuncio overreach, which I think is going to be very important in what's going on in London. I think it already is. But that their purpose is to make sure that the different dioceses throughout the world are singing from the same sheet of music, which they haven't been.
Right.
And then, of course, you've got the canonical standardization. You can't have this wayward group that is literally setting up a shadow architecture or a hierarchy that is in defiance to Catholic teaching, which is why the not just the excommunication, but the threat of schism for anybody else adhering.
Mm-hmm.
So these are his risks. He can't let this go too long or he will risk his own governance. And we've already seen, because it's like, okay, I can test this. I can look to see what's going on. Well, the Radcliffe in London thing, they've not said anything public. Either Moss, who's the Archbishop over that, or Pope Leo. They've not said anything, which means they're keeping it close to the vest. It's a disciplinary issue. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes. But like I said, London is a pretty hot mess right now with what's going on in the church, especially with these new sexual abuse charges that just came up. The excommunication, what is fascinating about this is the night before they elevated those bishops, those priests to bishop.
Should we explain high level what the excommunication? So this.
Yeah, I'm about to.
Okay, good.
So the night before they did this ordination of these bishops, these priests into bishops, Pope Leo sent a letter to the prefect of SSPX. He said, please, it breaks my heart. Please don't do this. For the good of the church, for the good of the people you serve, please, please, please don't do this. And it's clear when you read his own letter, and it's very short.
What's an SSPX? Because
Society for St. Paul X.
I know, but what does that mean? What's the significance of it?
You're jumping ahead. Let me give 1 second. So he writes a letter saying, please don't do this. That brings back another big issue because they claim that the popes since Vatican II are not legitimate.
They went rogue.
Okay.
Like 70 years ago.
Okay.
Yes. So they're saying that because of Vatican II, every pope that has been appointed since Vatican II is not a legitimate pope. That's the basis of everything, is that we're in a post-conciliar church. A conciliar church. Vigano says the same thing. He got excommunicated himself.
They were asked to keep this in-house. They didn't. They went public with it. So it's bad-mouthing.
They didn't just go public with it. They've been running their own church. And for 50 years, since Pope John Paul II.
It's been a shadow church. That's what I'm trying so hard to make sure people understand.
Okay.
For 50 years, the church has been trying to work with them.
Okay. Yeah. Mayor, that helped tremendously.
We are seeing a mirror image in a lot of these different institutions.
Okay.
So just for some of the audience members, just put your bias to the side for just a second and understand what we're trying to show you on the institution level and mirroring it. It's really, really important.
Yeah. Well said, Mayor.
Well, because it's true. Because like I said, you got an SSPX group that's setting up a shadow hierarchy.
Yes.
That's polite words for deep state or deep church, right?
Yep.
That is in total defiance with the normal order and management of the institution. And that's what they've been doing. And for 50 years, since Pope John Paul II, the church has been trying to work with them. Pope John Paul II excommunicated them. Pope Benedict reversed the excommunication. Pope Francis has tried to work with them. Pope Leo, without a word, he wrote a letter, please don't do this, it breaks my heart. Bam, 24 hours after doing it, they're cut off completely. That's a hardline stance. Not only that, he didn't send the letter of excommunication. Of course, Cardinal Fernandez did, DDF, the Dicastery of the Faith. He sent the excommunication letter. Pope Leo has said nothing since then. So in other words, he's done.
He's not said anything publicly.
He's not said one word. And what does that mean? He said, you chose. I begged you not to. You chose to do this. You're cut off. He has now put them outside of the church sphere. It's nothing he has to deal with. For him, they're gone. It's over. So what is the next step? Well, there's some confusing documents, which is what's got everybody all upset, and I think is adding to this public debate. What happens to everybody else? Well, the actual letter says formal adherence. Although most people aren't talking about what formal adherence means. Formal adherence doesn't mean if you go into an SSPX mass that you're formally adhering to its principles. So I decided to look at what the American U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops is doing. And it came out last night that they are adhering to the excommunication and that they are drafting guidance documents for all the different dioceses to use with regards to the about 60,000 members in the U.S. and the some 750 priests in the U.S. So they're drafting guidance document, but they're adhering to the order of excommunication, which is interesting because it says the USCCB is saying, okay, the Pope is the leader. We're not going to defy him, which is a different story.
What was the original reasons why SSPX broke off? I think that's important.
What I did,
could they have any relation to this LGBTQ stuff going on?
No, that goes back to liberation theology. And if you want to go down that road, I've been dying to.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to go down that road eventually.
Me too.
It's an important road, and it all ties into the same time period globally.
Oh.
Again, just understanding the structures and peeling back the layers of the history to understand how we got to where we are right now.
Oh, very important. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I've been solely focused on that for like 18 months now.
Okay.
So what I want to point out, and let me give you the SSPX.
So it's not a real
rundown.
church?
No, it's not.
Not legal.
Never has been.
Okay.
So what they did is just to keep from losing the faithful, what they did is they said that communion, confession, and marriages were okay, but they had to have an ordinary approve it. An ordinary is a regular diocesan priest or bishop. And now there's no ordinary in charge. I mean, they're cut off, and they established a set of guidance from the DDF, from the Vatican, and how people can come back into full communion with the Roman Church, which the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops is still writing the guidance up on. So this isn't completely done yet, but it is coming, just so you know. So one of the things that really was intriguing to me, and it actually ties into other research I've done, and I can't find, I got to find my, hold on.
So also, I know a lot of people, myself included, once upon a time, have delved into the, pardon my ignorance again, Black Pope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, people don't even know.
Well, that's, again, that's why I made sure to preface with, pardon my ignorance, but the existence of a Black Pope, okay,
so the Black Pope is a Jesuit. They're teachers.
Okay.
I'm not saying there aren't issues within the Jesuit ranks, because there are some, and people are a little concerned.
Yeah.
But they're not an alternate pope.
Okay.
Okay, they're
just a representative of the Jesuits or something.
The Jesuits are typically the teachers of the church.
Okay.
They're the ones that they're in colleges. They have to teach the faith, and there's been some things that have come out of the Jesuits that are of concern, and we'll just have to wait and see where they go. Okay. To be very honest, I don't feel it's fair to talk about that yet, because it's still unfolding. More recent stuff is still unfolding, and I'm watching it. But it's not it's not an alternate pope. It's not what people think it is.
Okay.
Now, historically, who is the Black Pope? Well, if you go back into actually a Baptist preacher will tell you that was Satan himself, and that gets into LaVey. Antoine LaVey.
Anton LaVey, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. So that's another story. It has nothing to do with this story. So the SSPX, they're in disagreement on three particular things. They're saying that Every human being has a right to religious freedom, should be free from the state coercion in matters of faith. And the SSPX is arguing, that's straight out of Vatican II, that adhere to older preconciliar paper teachings, such as Pope Pius IX's syllabus on errors, which state that only the Catholic Church has the objective right to be recognized and protected by the state. That is not true. That is not what Vatican II says. And it actually takes Pope Pius IX's words out of context. Mm-hmm. Vatican II says ecumenism and interreligious dialogue is necessary for a healthy church. And they encourage active dialogue between Catholics, non-Catholics, Christians, and non-Christians. So, of course, St. Justin Martyr in the 1st century said the exact same thing. That he believes, St. Justin Martyr says, that God put the seeds of his truth in all cultures. And then as Catholic Christians in general, we help form those seeds into the true story of Christ's mysteries, right? His birth, his passion, and his resurrection. So, and that actually gets to the heart of the project Mary and I are working on for Sacred Footprints, which is this whole story unfolding. So, again, they're complaining that Vatican II changed doctrine, but it has been the doctrine of the church since the 1st century. Or, I'm sorry, the 2nd century. SSPX claims that Lumen Gentium emphasized that the College of Bishops governs the global church, and they're saying, but that weakens the church with the absolute authority of the papacy. And I have to laugh, because how ironic is it that they're concerned about the papacy being weakened, yet they're setting up their own hierarchy outside of the papacy. Can I pause you for a moment to ask Mare if she can break this down for some people before I just don't want to lose anybody. Because again, like, you gotta. I'm sorry.
I'm trying. No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry.
No.
You gotta understand my ignorance. And if anybody is like me, when I hear words like papacy, I'm still trying to comprehend papacy before you're on to the next difficult word that I don't understand.
I can break it down in 3 words if you don't mind. St. Justin Martyr said you got to talk to everybody. That every culture, every race, every creed has God planted seeds of truth. And if we don't talk to everybody, we're going to miss God's words.
Oh, my gosh. This goes into what I just said last night. Oh, my gosh. This is crazy. I stirred everybody up last night because at the end of the movie, the last movie we played, I was like, at some point I almost want Arm to like... And I think people got a little concerned, and maybe rightfully so. But I said, I even want to consider opening like a show for libs. I wasn't like, okay, have some purple-haired libtards with the universal indicator in their nose, indoctrinating people. And that's not what I meant. What I meant was providing a platform for people who start to realize that they didn't leave the party left them. They need a place to a bridge, right?
That would be like a Jillian Michaels type.
Yes.
Referring to.
Yes, 100%.
Poster child for what you're describing.
Yes, like I at some point I want to have that, because they can't. If they somebody who just woke up were to jump into our chat, they would have a permanent fluoride stare.
Yeah. It would be a lot.
So, Mare, by all means.
So, SSPX, the excommunicated ones. So, Vatican II, and this, correct me where I get screwed up, Feisty, but they wanted to change it because prior to that, all masses were in Latin. So the translations were not that great and people didn't understand what was being said. So like if they're just giving you a homily in Latin, but you're in South America, how does that help you love Jesus and understand Jesus?
Actually, the homilies were in English.
What's a homily?
Mass was in Latin. And what had happened was people lost the language of Latin, so they didn't understand the solemnity of the Mass.
I've always felt like that was intentional, by the way.
Well, no, because
why they don't teach Latin is what I mean.
Oh, why they don't teach Latin, I think, is intentional. I think that was a global
Yes.
push, to be very honest.
Because it used
So Vatican II said, do it in the vernacular of where you're at. In other words, whatever language where you're at, do it in that language. This is why you see so many multilingual masses.
right.
You know what I mean? Because it's in the vernacular of the people that are going.
Yeah. If they can't understand the words, they can't love Jesus.
Right.
I'm simplifying.
But there's more to Vatican II, because Vatican II also said that the College of Cardinals, the bishops, all of the people, they co-govern the church, but they're under the Pope.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's my mare bear.
Pope Leo.
So it's my mare bear, right? That's what she's there to ensure that it's easily interpreted.
Right.
Right, Mare?
So
Try.
SSPX tried to say that the College of Cardinals decentralized, but they didn't. And Pope Leo reinforces it by saying, with you I am Christian, for you I am a bishop, because under the Pope means I get the last word.
So when he says bishop, think rule of law.
Well,
Translating
the Pope is called the Pope, Father, right? But he's actually a bishop. That's the highest rank.
And I didn't know, non-Catholic over here, that I told you I don't understand the hierarchy, but when I look at it in the
It's a title.
When I understand the framing and mapping of our government and the higher things, like the map overlays perfectly in my brain of what I'm looking at.
Well,
So basically, he's a bishop and he's the head bishop.
If our
Pope.
government's based off ancient Roman,
yes,
government, then the Vatican, there must be a correlation there, right?
And another thing SSPX is really upset about is the Mass being in English. It's not even a document in Vatican II, but they're saying that Vatican II authorized a reform of the liturgy that led to the creation of what we call the Novus Order. The new Mass is what that means. And actually, they reject anything to do with the modern Mass, everything, saying that it was, quote, Protestantized. Okay, but that isn't even in Vatican II. It has nothing to do with Vatican II. It's what happened after Vatican II. So I keep telling people, this isn't because of Vatican II, it's despite Vatican II.
Mm-hmm.
So Grandpa has a lot. Shout out to Gramps. Good to see you out there, by the way, brother. Always good to see you. He says, I attend SSPX Mass every week. My missal has the Latin on one side. I don't know what any of this means. English on the other. Not hard to follow or understand.
So what he's saying is Latin will be on the right, English will be on the left.
Okay.
Which
so
is
that you
good.
can follow along.
Yeah.
We had books like that in my Methodist church.
We still have books like
we had
that.
ones in different languages, particularly in the hymns, because a lot of the hymns that we sang were not English.
So the crux to the matter is, though, that they lost the right to elevate these bishops. The church has said, we're done trying to come up with a compromise because they keep walking it back. You're done. You're out of here. So whether you agree, disagree, this isn't a debate about that. The church has spoken. Pope Leo said, no more talk, no more dialogue. 50 years is long enough. We're done. Mm-hmm. And so they excommunicated the two bishops that elevated the four priests, and they told the laity, as well as the more than 750 priests that are a part of it, if you still formally adhere, you are in schism and are at risk of excommunication yourself.
So
that
who are
is
these
the
four
church.
priests?
I don't have their names handy.
Then what were they?
listed-
There had to have been an issue, right?
Yeah, because they were told they did not have the authority to elevate these four priests into a bishop.
These particular four
did it-
priests, or any four priests, or any priest?
Any priest.
Oh, okay.
And they did it anyway. Pope Leo wrote a letter the night before saying, please don't do it. They did it anyway on the 30th, and then they were excommunicated 24 hours later.
This reeks to me of just a rogue faction of the Catholic Church that,
well, don't say that to an SSPX adherent because they think that they're the true church.
Well, I should say, those two individuals at the top, right?
Mm-hmm. They acted outside of the papal authority to
And
do
they
what they did.
weren't respecting any part of the authority of the Vatican Church.
No.
So
and that
seems
level
rogue
of
to me.
defiance, that level of defiance is what just got cut off from the vine.
And we'd hate for anybody like a Grandpa Hazelot to feel dismayed by that,
Correct.
right? Or disenfranchised.
I have a feeling that's why it probably drug on so long, because
They were afraid of just that.
well, yeah, and there's so many people that are just lovely, beautiful, Christians, Catholics, whichever denomination. They're just going to church and doing their thing in the community.
Right.
They may not even know, and they don't have anything to do with the upper echelon. So this final step.
Let me point out
Every
something.
bit of that needed to be said, by the way.
Let me point out something. If the traditional Latin Mass is an absolutely beautiful Mass, which is what a lot of people flocked to, because it feels reverent. You feel just more a part of it. Whereas the Novus Ordo, the new Mass, and there's a lot of reverence lost. I mean, it drives me nuts when I go to church every Sunday and people are talking in the church, having conversation. It's like, that's not what you're here for. You're here to focus on God and to pray, but there's this conversation going on. It just feels different, and I understand it. But that isn't the Novus Ordo doing that. That's a lack of leadership doing that.
Okay.
And that's what I keep trying to tell people. That said, I love the Latin Mass, which is interesting because Pope Leo reversed what Pope Francis has had it with the rogueness, right? And he restricted the Latin Mass. Okay, he restricted new ones. Pope Leo just told Cardinal Burke, you can start up the Latin Mass again at the Vatican. So, in other words, he recognizes that that is a valuable thing to a lot of people that follow the faith.
Yeah. By the way, Grandpa Hazelot says you just nailed it. So, bravo.
I don't know what I nailed it on, but okay.
The explanation, I guess, the difference between the two.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, all the people that just attend the church are just lovely people.
I mean,
got nothing.
I got family members that are part of SSPX. I mean, this has nothing to do with them.
Have
It
you
has
ever-
everything to do.
Well, I know. I just wanted to put it out there and make sure it was understood and, on the record. That was the point of what we're doing today.
like if you're a young man, right, growing up in the world and you're looking for your partner, your soulmate, when you take it to your parents, I'm now dating this, a good Catholic girl, a good Christian girl. What is not associated with that is somebody who's, goes out and girls' night out once or twice a week and, is just, isn't principled, right? Usually when you hear a good Catholic man or woman or a good Christian man or woman, it's always principled is what's associated with that, right?
Well, not anymore.
Used to be.
I would argue it definitely still is. And
I
we've got to get back
don't
to
know. I would hope it is. But there's been so many factions that have destroyed the church from the inside out. It really didn't need ignorant people from the outside assuming what was going on and saying their thing to destroy it, right? It was already being destroyed from the inside out. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of damage. So I agree with what Pope Benedict said. We'll be smaller, more spiritual when we're done. I laud that. I welcome it.
Yeah.
I am a faithful Catholic, have always been a faithful Catholic, and no amount of BS coming from somebody who isn't is going to change that for me. For me, though, I need to be able to rely on the leadership of the church to be there, to be a part, to be the leadership of me as part of the flock. So hopefully that's it. So that leaves us with this final thing, because what I started to do was to put together a dashboard of things we can observe. And I've already seen his leadership style starting to come out when I observed the intervention with his personal appeal to SSPX. That was like his final line. Please, please, please don't do it. And then they get excommunicated. The fact that he's been silent since the actual act of excommunication means he's going to let the hierarchy, the administrative part of the church deal with the rest. He made his point. The fact that the USCCB is going to adhere to the excommunication, put out their own guidance, says that the various councils across the world are saying, okay, this pope means business, and they're not going to risk going into schism themselves. And then I think what, and this is interesting to me.
So this excommunication is leading by example.
He's leading. He's letting people know. I try.
Yeah, he said an example.
There's going to be a division.
Yeah.
I'm the Pope. I make the decision.
Okay.
But this book that comes out September 15th, ironically, is all his pre-papal writings on management. Do you know where he's going the week after? To France. Where did SSPX start? France.
Okay.
So there you have it. And unfortunately,
by the way,
I really had a great second part of the deck, and I can't get into it all.
There's only 3 posts from Trump about Pope Leo. I looked it up. The first one was April 14th. Will someone please tell Pope Leo that Iran has killed at least 42,000 innocent, completely unarmed protesters in the last 2 months, and that for Iran to have a nuclear bomb is absolutely unacceptable. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So he's not saying anything direct. He's not, I don't think, being, adversarial. But he's just saying, will someone please tell the Pope about Iran? So there's that. Then.
So what did Marco Rubio do?
He went to
the Vatican with a baseball.
Yeah.
A football.
Yeah.
And the Vatican gave him what? An olive branch pen.
Right. And then May 30th, he said, someone should explain to the Pope that mayor of Chicago is useless and that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. President Donald John Trump. And he's referencing Brandon Johnson, communist, going to the Vatican to visit the Pope, where he said, it's an honor to share time with the magnificent human, His Holiness, Pope Leo. So, and then other than that, he referenced on June 18th, Pope Leo commends U.S.-Iran peace deal. And that was a Just the News article that's titled, the title says Pope Leo commends U.S.-Iran peace deal. So take from that what you will.
Anyway, I just went through this whole deck, that whole part, explaining what we can expect to see coming out of this Pope. He will realign the church. The shadow church has just been put on notice. This is really going to upset, and it already is, the College of Cardinals, because they've been operating in their own accord, right? They outside of papal authority, and if SSPX is any indication, he's going to be a hardliner when it comes to cardinals that are disobeying.
Yeah, he's going to be cleaning. It looks like he's going to be taking a much harder stance with ones like. What was the one that wrote the book
with
on
you? I am Christian.
What, Mayor?
What was the one that wrote the book on erotic?
Fernandez, the guy that wrote the excommunication. Yeah,
it's that kind of stuff that he's going to be really. It looks like he's going to be targeting.
You're going to win people over. I'm telling you right now, you're going to start to win people over when you do that.
Yeah, but I already see it. The SSPX stuff is a great window into his management.
That's why I brought it up to you. The second I saw that. When was that? Was that last week?
Yeah, they were officially excommunicated on the 2nd of July.
I saw it and I dropped it in I think it was the Zoom chat or the Diggs folder. And I don't think it really hit you just yet what had happened.
Oh, it had been. How long do you think I've been working on these sites? I've been following this all month, the month of June, because a lot of articles were coming out, and I've been reading them all about this pending excommunication. I already knew that Pope Leo purposefully refused to talk about it in any of the consistories or any of the personal meetings that were being held at the Vatican. He refused to say a word. And he absolutely set it up so nobody could talk about it, which meant that was already a sign he was going to be a hard line. Then he writes a letter begging. They get excommunicated 24 hours after doing it anyway. He's now been silent. And I think if anybody wants to extract, go look at his thesis, because for all of those cardinals that tended to operate on their own, they've just been put on notice.
But a part of us should almost kind of want them to
I want them to show their ass. Yes.
Show their ass.
Yeah. I do, which is why I think he's not saying anything. He's letting all this stuff gel.
Okay.
He's letting people are exposing themselves. You've got a shadow hierarchy. It wasn't just SSPX that was setting up a shadow church. You had a shadow hierarchy within the Curia, within the Vatican.
Explain the mafia component of that, since we're not going to move to the second part of the deck. So let's
the mafia component. So why did Q use, I'm assuming that's where you wanted to go, the whole idea of Godfather 3?
Bingo.
Okay. So what came out after 9/11 is that money that came out of Saudi Arabia and other places, but Saudi Arabia went through the Institute of Religious Works to the CIA here to fund 9/11. When you go backwards and put the history together, the CIA had been using the Institute of Religious Works to funnel money into anti-communist efforts for the longest time, since the 40s.
That's tied to Operation Gladio at the end of
World. You got Operation Gladio in Italy, but there were several stay-behinds.
Oh, there was a bunch all through Europe.
So every country pretty much had their own stay-behind. And the Gladio was largely funded through the Institute of Religious Works. Why did they use it? Well, because the Institute of Religious Works isn't a bank.
Right.
It's a money transmitter, kind of like your Walmart when you go get a check, right?
And who's going to question just about the oldest institution that we have?
Well, Institute of Religious Works is only the last century. Pope Leo the 13th set it up.
The Catholic, the Vatican. For those of us that are not specifically Catholic, like we just look at the Vatican, and that's all that we know.
So
like,
Pope Leo the 13th set up the Institute of Religious Works for just what it says.
Right.
For promulgating care and well-being of the poor and the marginalized.
So like orphanages and health.
Right. So what ended up happening, because it's a money transmitter, and it largely is only in place to handle the money for people who work at the Vatican, there were corrupt people in Office 1 of the Secretary of State that opened up fictitious accounts for the purpose of laundering money. So that's where Godfather 3 comes in. What is it? It's when you're legitimizing illicit money, right? So then once it gets into the Vatican Bank will transfer it to your Wells Fargo. But because it had a Vatican Bank on it, it was considered legitimate flow of cash.
Yep.
It didn't get a suspicious activity report until 9/11. 9/11 showed, wow, they're using, and this wasn't the only avenue, but they were using, that's where the Q-Post comes from, the $225 billion. So the Vatican started almost immediately auditing the books. Of course, factions within the Secretary of State's office tried to shut that down. So that's where you get into the, let's just say, we're not going to get into the second, so I'll stop sharing as soon as I can figure out where the share button is.
It'll be a great deck for later, either Thursday or next Monday. It'll be a great
we're gonna do the deck. Don't worry, I've got to do it. So what's really interesting about what's going on now with the Vatican was because of all of that, because of the money laundering, and people have gone to jail for it, because of all of that, the Vatican was compelled. They redid the IOR. There's a new directorate of the finance where that position now reports directly to the Pope. The Secretary of State has nothing to do with Vatican finances. And in fact, all of the assets have been transferred to that new directorate. Pope Leo is formally the head of that. So no matter what and it's run by a board of people that aren't in the church. Right? They're run by civilians. So there's been a tremendous amount of work that's been done, and I applaud the veracity of the work. I really do, because it's been amazing as to what they've accomplished. The purpose, though, was not just for the Vatican. Of course, in investigating this, you start figuring out the Vatican Shadow Church. SSPX is a mirror of that. You start figuring out how they're working with shadow governments. SSPX, again, is a mirror of that, which is why I'm saying you've got a great indicator of where this is going.
And I think Tammy was asking the question. We're not saying that PX was the head of the shadow.
No.
In it.
They
We're
were
just showing-
establishing a shadow hierarchy. That's all I've
Yes.
said.
Yes, but we're not indicating that they were at the root of that.
Oh my goodness, no.
That goes. I keep harping on liberation theology, but that's
another shadow hierarchy.
That's the road to communism, and that's not just in Catholicism. I mean,
that's not SSPX either.
No, that's how we got drag queens at pulpits in Presbyterian churches and Methodist churches and all that other shit. It's through that, and it happened through the seminaries, and it happened about 50, 60 years ago.
Actually, more than that. It started in the 20s.
It did, but you started really seeing.
Well, that was the purpose. So that's where Bella Dodd comes in.
Right.
Bella Dodd used to be a faction leader of the Communist Party USA in Manhattan, in New York City. And they were given a directive, according to her, this is her testimony, given a directive to recruit young gay men to go into the seminary.
All of
with
them.
the strict purpose of them elevating through the ranks so that they could be triggered at an appropriate time. Speed ahead to Vatican II. After Vatican II, the liberalization of the church, many of those original people that were recruited are in a position of authority.
See, there you have it. Now, Feisty just addressed the infiltration side of things, so nobody should be claiming that Feisty is a sycophant or anything like that. Go ahead, Mayor.
I really don't care if they do anymore. You know that, right?
Yes.
I haven't seen it in the chat. I've seen a lot of questions. I've seen a few people that just simply are not fans of the Pope, but I haven't seen any attacks on them.
And that's fine. I'm not asking anybody to move their needle.
Yeah.
But at least if you're going to have an opinion, have an informed one. That's all I'm saying.
I think this was well done, Mayor. You helped clear that any of the difficult language up for folks, and Feisty. This was brilliant, and this is going to be a multiple step process. Sadly, again, I'm largely ignorant regarding anything Catholic. I just didn't grow up in the church.
Hip to the clip. Fatima is real. You can look it up. It was written at the time. Portugal was a fascist country. 70,000 people witnessed it. It was in their own newspapers, a fascist state-controlled newspaper. So it is not a trick. It was an actual thing that happened. Yeah. And if you want to do any deeper dig, go look at what the three warnings were, the three miracles, or the three revelations that were made. Go look at those and see how they apply to today. It should open your mind, change your thinking, and make you go, are we at the end of this?
We might be close.
Well done. This is brilliant. I don't think it was as uncomfortable as you were anticipating, but
that's because I didn't get into the uncomfortable part.
We didn't get to the hard part. This was the easy part compared to
that was the easy part. Knowing it was going to be Catholic centric, I knew that a lot of the audience was going to tune out. Right.
But no, most people stayed. And I got to applaud
thank
the
you.
audience.
I appreciate that.
I got to applaud the chat, too. Especially for those that out there that are dismayed with the idea of a pope or the Vatican Church in general. We have, at least from my perception, we have largely been propagandized to death regarding the topic. And then now when I really reflect back on it objectively, I think, oh boy, I can see it now. I can see that there would be a vested interest by the deep state, by a shadow government to make us feel this way about the Vatican Church.
What's the first rule of communism? You've got to make the state more important. Yeah. And the first thing you have to do is take down the spiritual anchors that every society has.
Worship government.
We've weaponized Hinduism, we've weaponized Judaism, we've weaponized Islam, and we've weaponized Catholicism, the largest Christian church. You weaponize these centers of moral teaching, then you get disenfranchised people that leave the church and the state fills in the blanks.
We saw it after 9/11. The Muslims. We're seeing it now to a degree as well regarding Muslim. Well, not Muslim so much, but Islam, the Islamic faith. The Shah, right? and arguably deep state factions of every religion, arguably, right?
Well, I don't know. We can focus on the Catholic Church, but it's disingenuous to do that when you recognize that centers of religion, regardless of what the religion is, are all struggling with the same story. I mean, it wasn't just the Catholic Church that took $30 billion from the federal government during COVID. Just going to point that out.
My family hails from Syria, both Syria and Lebanon, but Christians that hail from Syria and Lebanon, believe it or not, which is
Well, Lebanon used to be a
easy.
Christian nation.
I know. Trust me when I tell you, if I could tell you guys some stories that I've heard from my family, it would blow people's mind, the stories that I've heard about my family.
Like I said, when I started researching this, because there's so much garbage out there, you know, the assumptions as to what this picture meant, that picture meant, people didn't, because they already had a distaste for the Catholic Church and for the Pope, that actually didn't look into anything.
You broke that veil for me with ease. Actually, you asked me one simple question. Where are these symbols located? On the inside or the outside?
On the outside.
And then I went and looked at it myself, and I said, "Oh shit, it's on the outside." That
So
seems
what does a
significant to
gargoyle?
me.
What does a gargoyle mean? Do you know?
Protects it from the outside.
No. What is
right?
the meaning of a gargoyle?
Oh.
Do you know why they're on the outside of the Vatican? Do you know what they are? They're downspouts for rain.
Yeah.
They keep the rain from getting inside the church. It's symbolism of keeping evil from getting inside and penetrating the
that's what I
church.
was saying. Yeah.
I mean, go look at them. I mean, the symbolism is on the outside for a reason.
What
Fran?
you're describing, Sean, is confirmation bias. That's the technical term, and that's weaponized through so-called journalists. Literally called confirmation bias.
So be careful. I would
making assumptions.
I would encourage people to be very careful with headlines. Headlines have grabbed me in the past. You know, Newsmax. I just showed in the beginning of the show the Newsmax. I didn't show it, but explain the Newsmax article that was titled something that had nothing to do with what he was actually saying, and they left the important part way down at the bottom of the article, that he encouraged countries, governments to create the environment to keep immigrants in their home countries rather than, you know, making them into refugees. So.
You know, and when you go backwards and look at Catholic teaching, it's in the Catechism for anybody interested in looking at it. Our position doctrinally has always been dignity and respect for all people, immigrant or otherwise. And Pope Leo has never preached anything different than remember the people. You should be, they have dignity. And all he's ever said with regards to migration is, please remember there's people attached. These are real people with red
Human
blood.
beings, yeah.
If they're in your country, help them to assimilate. If they're not in your country, help them in their home country so they don't need to migrate.
Yeah.
And he's never said anything different.
Well, I don't see anything wrong with that comment at all.
No, it's an appropriate comment. Yes. But again, you take half of his comment, right?
Yeah, cherry pick the part there that you want to propagate.
But you have all the lower level or local level, and you can find it again in any of the denominations, but you will see them wearing all of their garb representing which denomination, and you'll see them at the rallies for the DSA. That's why I keep harping on liberation theology. They have glommed on and bastardized Jesus's teachings so that it will push communism.
Yeah, and with the help of the universities.
I want to make a comment. Beth D551 have followed Fatima since a child. Always was waiting for Pope to release the third prophecy since the 1960s. Okay, there's an interesting thing here. Lucia had a hard time writing down the prophecies, and in particular, she had a really hard time writing down the third one. And finally, remember these apparitions happened in 1917. Finally, in 1958, she delivers the third secret. And she said, was it 58 or 57? But she said, this must be revealed by 1960. And they said, well, why 1960? She said, it'll be made known then. It'll be made obvious then. Okay, so what was the major theme of the Fatima predictions, the prophecies, was that communism would be released throughout the world. Think of Trotskyism. And that we needed to be praying not just for the conversion of Russia, but for the world at large, which didn't happen. But why did she say 1960? Now, you're going to find this fascinating, Beth. 1959, Russia implemented, it's called Operation Seat to 12. In 1959, what was it? Pope Pius XII, an avid anti-communist, had just died. He had just died a couple years before. And they wanted to, so that his writings, his position never surfaced. They painted him as Hitler's Pope, right? Which is leading to another set of Q posts that a lot of people misread. And in fact, they funded a play out of Germany, no less, to paint him as a really raging criminal type Pope. And what was their motto? Dead men can't defend themselves. So she said release it by 1960 because it'll be made obvious. What is obvious is not just Operation Seat 12, but the wall in Berlin was completed in 59.
And then
So it proved the prophecy is what I'm getting at.
and the Polish Pope from behind the Iron Curtain was in
Pope John Paul
power,
II.
and he was working with Reagan to fall communism.
And that's where the Vatican Bank, the IOR, actually was helpful because the money was funneled through them to help with what was going on behind the Iron Curtain, and it literally funded the Solidarity movement. Remember Lech Wałęsa? Remember he, Solidarity, they rose up against communism. It was this money funneled through the IOR that helped do that. So before you have all these negative things that a lot of people like to perpetuate, please understand the full story because it helps you put it into perspective. Not that we were good, they were bad, they were good, we were bad. It's not, it has nothing to do with that. It's a true accounting of the history so that you could put it into perspective.
Yeah, and I would expect to, a lot of times how we got this propagated, this indoctrinated, which is my opinion, was through repetition. Repeating, showing us the same thing, reading us the same thing, expressing over and over again. That's how you, effectively indoctrinate people.
So Marissa says, Tammy wants to know,
so you also
is there an easier
reverse
way to
that.
explain that to someone like me who's extremely dumb was the SSPX, the shadow government, so to speak, using the church to do bad things? No. SSPX schismed with the Roman church. That's a given. That happened back in the 60s. What they were doing recently, because they had authority to elevate the previous two bishops. Their two bishops are old. They wanted to name four new bishops. Rome said, no, it's time to end this back and forth quasi 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah.
You either end this, we are not going to accept a shadow hierarchy. This sets a bad precedent. Either come in line with Rome or you're going to have to go start your own church somewhere else. And by the way, there are alternatives that never gets discussed. So they weren't running the church. They were just setting up their own shadow hierarchy that is completely against what the church is doing. Reason why I'm saying it's a warning is because the shadow church, the deep church, the curia within Rome just got their final warning.
That makes okay.
If he's ready to cut them off like that, think about those cardinals that were doing bad shit.
And what's a
inside the
curia again?
Basically, it's the Pope's cabinet.
Okay.
Council.
Yeah.
And hi Kitty.
So don't be no more going rogue from
Right.
our council.
No more Radcliffes, right?
Right, Radcliffe. Oh,
Cardinal Radcliffe in London.
Yeah.
So you're going to start to see, and I think it's a really good indication of where we're going with this. You're going to start to see some hardline activity coming from the Pope, because, like he said, with you I am a Christian, for you I am a bishop. In other words, I get the last say. He is going to operationalize true governance, and that's the one thing that the church writ large, all of us, the laity, have said has been missing for decades.
Yeah, and no, Tammy, you are not dumb, so don't think that. All right, but she says, does the Vatican and Catholic Church influence our government? No.
No. No.
They influence principles. They want to encourage principles.
Okay, so from a moral standpoint,
right?
Because the Catholic Church has always been a leader in the moral values. They act, for example, Pope John Paul II, after 9/11, does retaliation against the Taliban constitute a just war? Pope didn't agree completely, but he did lay out the principles of just war. So we've always leaned on the moral teaching, if you will. It's kind of hard to lean on the moral teaching, though, when you find out there's a 300-page dossier out there that says the church is really out in left field. So it's stepped away from its I guess, moral high ground, which is what Pope Benedict warned about, and what Pope Leo calls the pompous few within the hierarchy. So, when you start looking at the corrective action that needs to be taken, what is going on in our own government? The pompous few that think they know better than the president or his appointed cabinet on how to run this country. The same thing is happening in the Vatican.
So we just saw a Supreme Court rule on something allowing Trump to continue firing
Schedule
people
F.
within the executive branch, okay?
Which is what I said earlier.
We just watched the Pope do the same thing with the SSPX, right?
Oh, you also just watched Pulte do the same thing.
Right.
They ruled last week, and now he's fired dozens.
So do you guys out there in the chat see a correlation here?
All three sides of the triangle coming front and center.
Right.
It's the things are happening and they are moving in a seemingly very positive direction. And again, I stress the audits are happening. They've been happening in the background.
Yep.
Just like there's been audits in our government, but we haven't been able to see them, but we know Doge has been auditing and we're waiting. It's a very similar thing to me. Yep. Like when I look at it, it's like a mirror.
Yeah. Well said, Mayor. This is discussion that really needed to happen. And not the first, and certainly won't be the last. There's going to be many more in this.
I really wish we would have had time to go through the second half of the deck, because I really think it hones in on some of these changes.
We'll do it.
We don't have time.
No,
tonight.
I said we can do it either next Monday or this Thursday or.
Yeah, I don't want to lose the.
But at some point, we will get through it. The healing has to begin.
That's why I wanted to do this, because I wanted to set straight some of the misunderstandings that's going on. Yeah. I wanted to help people understand exactly. I don't really care what you think of Catholicism.
Yeah,
I don't. I don't have a dog in your race. You don't have a dog in mine. So we're not talking religion. But I wanted people to understand the unvarnished truth about what we're watching globally with realignment of governments.
Yeah.
And the Vatican, unlike any other religion, is not just a state, Vatican City State, since 1939 with the Lateran Treaty, but it's also a religion. So it plays in two different fields. Mm-hmm. So it's very important to use that as a window of understanding of what's going on, because of the way it plays, not just in your norms and values, the influence sector, but in governance per se.
Well said. Hip to the Clip says we should make it a weekly series.
Well,
it is a weekly series. Yeah. Feisty Diggs.
Yeah. Well, not.
I think they.
Oh, you're talking Sacred Footprints. We have a new series Mary and I are working on, Sean.
Nice.
We call it Sacred Footprints. Mm-hmm. The purpose is to talk about all the religions from a story perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You gonna get Not Kevin to join you?
Yes.
Yes.
And hopefully Conserva Chris as well.
Nice.
Or Chris Doom.
And at some point, It's not going to be easy, but at some point I can almost envision having a call-in show at some point. So
that's technical.
Yeah,
That's I try to do that on Wednesdays, but I don't. It's not launching very well. It doesn't get a lot of viewership.
We can address the people with dissenting opinions that maybe have a different outlook and maybe want some things addressed.
Well, the best way to do that,
resource for that.
The best way to do that, by the way, join Telegram and come into chat because we have these discussions.
Yeah.
Regularly. Mary will tell you she's in there almost every night with us.
This is the healing process. The healing has to begin. And since this community is largely ahead of the curve in everything else, I don't think we should be behind the curb or up to date with mainstream media regarding this topic, right? Just this topic, but we're ahead of the curve on everything else. Now, we should be ahead of the curve on all of this stuff at this point,
Well, it is my prayer that we can move out of the
I think your prayers are being heard.
Absolute conspiracy into a reality-based, what are you watching? So we can have an honest discussion about where we're going.
Which absolute conspiracy requires a lot of speculation.
Right.
Well, and for those, I'll leave one thought on the table for you guys. Keep an open mind with what we're talking about. When people have a negative thing towards any institution, but for today's subject, we'll say the Vatican. So let's say they think it's corrupt, burn it down. What you're talking about when you make those statements, you're talking about 2,000 years of history, the greatest library ever, and you're talking about one of the largest moral authorities for the planet.
I think
you're ceding control.
It's now exceeded Islam even as far as how many adherents there are.
Yeah. My point is you're ceding control to the enemy if you do that. If you do not fight for the institution and fight to take it back, it would be like saying, well, the U.S. government's corrupt. Let's burn it all down. Okay, then what? What are you
then what? Then you just created the condition that brings in communism.
Correct. So that's my point of showing this. Just it's too big to throw away.
Yeah.
Why not fight for it? It's not all bad.
Not just too big to throw away.
Yes.
But since when is it okay to throw the baby out with the bathwater?
That's a condensed version of where I'm going.
Right. I mean, the best way to handle things is to clean it out, preserve the baby, get rid of the water. The condensed version.
Very up. Oh, tonight was fun. Today was fun. Wow, we just got a $10 Rumble rant from Ann Boyer.
Thank you so much, Ann.
Yeah, she says, this is just fascinating. Thank you for explaining some of this detail for all of us. You are very welcome. And yes, thank you to Feisty and Mare. I didn't do anything. These two are the rock stars.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes, absolutely. I'm not surprised by any of this. Again,
did I come across as a sycophant?
No, not even a little bit. You were very measured, and
I have to laugh every time I hear that. By the way,
cool, calm, collected, which I like. I think that always reaches people the best. And thank you to the chat too for making Feisty feel welcome to share this stuff. The last thing I want her or anybody else for that matter to ever feel is like they have to defend their core beliefs, their religious beliefs. I don't ever want that here. Just like I want to create the conditions, the environment for a former purple-haired, septum-pierced human being to feel comfortable coming into our chat and not feeling overwhelmed or lesser than or condescended to so that's my goal. That's America
I appreciate
rising.
the opportunity to present the reality of what's going on in the Vatican and not once being challenged about the tenets of my religion. It was all about governance.
You've come a long way, because when you first started,
I used to get beat up every day.
Yeah,
I still get beat up somewhat, but First question out the gate was, why do Catholics do that? And it's like, that's not what we're talking about here.
But I told you in the beginning, it's going to be contentious at first. However, the more you keep at it, did I not tell you that? If you keep at it, and you're going to get people to slowly.
But I also had to put my foot down too. I got tired of explaining and saying,
nobody wants religion pushed onto them. Nobody, no matter.
And
what
I haven't done that.
I know that.
That's the thing. I wish people would step back, because as soon as you mention the word Catholic, they immediately think I want everybody to be Catholic. No, I've never done that.
This is what the LGB cult mafia
the
fails to
absolutism
recognize.
Garbage, right?
Yes, and they shove their stuff down people's throats, and it is a religion. And I encourage people to refer to it as a religion. Once you tell even them themselves to their face, stop shoving your religion down people's throats, because you're gonna get resistance every time, no matter what it is, right? No matter if it's Christianity or any religion for that matter, so.
Well, I think it's fair in the light of governance coming back into control of the executive, right? Whether it's the Pope or the president. I think looking at everything that's going on, I think we do have a pretty damn good lens with which to look into as you watch what's going on at the Vatican and what Trump is doing, because it's the identical thing. In fact, Trump is currently disarming all the infiltrators, the Tuckers, the Groypers, the Promethean. He's currently disarming them with his investigation style, with breaking up the conspiracy into all these mini things. You watch. Topics over the next few days are going to be changing.
Do you think it's a coincidence that Sean Ryan had Candace Owens on for rather long interview, 4-hour long interview the other day, and today we're seeing the hearing or the trial begin on?
Well, I think there's Robinson. More to it too. You got to remember they tried to get TPUSA to back Ron DeSantis. And Erica Kirk pissed them off when she backed Vance. So you've got a play that's happening here where they're trying to influence public thought, whether it's to keep your eyes focused on what's going on internationally instead of the infiltration that's happening domestically, or you got these factions that are pulling the disenfranchised people into little echo chambers that remove Trump MAGA votes. And that was the rest of the deck for today. We're going to have to wait. But where do you see it? Because what I'm seeing right now is a perfect strategy where Trump doesn't have to speak to any of them with regards to Israel policy or any of this policy. He's just going to say, hey, we broke the conspiracy case into a bunch of little guys, and now you got people scrambling to find coverage from a legal perspective. So I think it's fantastic what we're watching.
Yes, the Russiagate prosecutor calls audible on the grand conspiracy case down in Southern District of Florida.
I will get into that one on the next show because it really needs a deep dive.
This Thursday we'll probably talk about it because I'm sure something else will reveal itself from now until Thursday.
I'm sure that deck is going to go longer than it is. It's already 20 slides. But
by the way, we got a little bit of breaking news. And I'm so happy to hear this because why? I'm in Maine, and it's now been determined Maine Senate Democrat, communist nominee Graham Plattner has released a video saying his campaign is, quote, taking time to reflect on the best path forward following a now very new sexual assault allegation against him.
Okay, so let me ask a question for you, Sean. Is it the new sexual assault allegation? Or is it the fact that we just found out the conspiracy case has been broken into a lot of these little cases, and there's all this dark money being investigated right now, and it may have been just going straight into his campaign, and suddenly he needs to reflect. I don't think it has to do with sexual assault. I think it has to do with you got some dark money, buddy, and you need to talk.
That could be the case. I know this because I learned this about a month and a half, 2 months ago, that the GOP does have been sitting on something about him in particular, and they were waiting to release it. This could be it. This might not be it. I don't know. Maybe you're right. It's about the dark money aspect. But if that's the case, how many other candidates have this dark money?
You watch.
And
I do think the timing. Remember what Trump put out. In fact, I had it for today. We're not going to be able to get into it for today, but the video that was just put out about what was it, the White House put it out. The rule of law reclaimed.
Oh,
that was just put out on the 4th.
Yes.
So I'm going to give it to you in chat. Hold on.
I got it.
Here's the rule of law reclaimed. If you look at that and recognize that he's now the July 8th, my turn, and Q responds, sweet dreams. Remember the Q post 3382?
Yes, I remember this.
Okay.
Post.
So you've got the rule of law reclaimed. You've got the whole Russiagate conspiracy being broken into these multi-conspiracy cases. And you've got Graham Platinum. That is very good. It is excellent.
Because we're going to see things move faster.
Not only you're going to see things move faster, but they can't hide behind the grand conspiracy thing.
Right.
So, but you also got Graham Plattner, right, 24 hours later, stepping back. I don't think it's sexual assault.
Yeah. I mean, he already had plenty of them against him anyway, so.
What's different and new? Why is he stepping back now? Think about this. If they're breaking those cases into all these smaller cases, all of the people involved, remember, what are they doing? They've weaponized every facet of dark money. Their big funding pipeline, right? They've weaponized all of the connections between these various NGOs and the like, right? So you start pulling all this together, and they're breaking out the various conspiracy theory investigations. People like a Graham Plattner, who've been the beneficiary of the conspiracy, need to step back. You're going to see all these people suddenly now, they're looking for their own coverage from attorneys.
He has until July 13th to withdraw from the race. From now until the 13th, which is
7 days from now.
7 days. He's got 7 days. And if he's coming out now saying, we're going to take time to reflect on the best path forward, what does that tell you? And if he's gone, then they got nobody else.
Well, and keep in mind, we've got other areas. I expect to hear something similar out of California. I expect to hear something similar from any of these. Denver is another big one, right?
Newsom's staffer, by the way, shout out to Adel. Welcome in, Patriots from 412 and on. 412 Productions. Good to see you guys. Shout out to Adel. Staffer, this came out over the weekend that Newsom's staffer has been wearing a wire.
Has been working with the FBI since when?
Since when? Not under Trump. Not under Trump's leadership, by the way. And Duppy comes in saying Denver is tarded. Yes, Duppy, we know.
Yes, Denver is. But what I'm saying is you've got California, you got Denver, and you got Maine. It's not just Denver either.
Yep. Of course.
So let's just say California, Colorado, and Maine. These communist groups have been totally focused on largely college areas, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Young youth vote that they can frame.
Yep.
In blue urban districts.
Yep.
And so I've already seen where the Democrat Party is trying to get a grip. The Republican Party is doing the same thing. They're locking money out. Trump is saying you're either on with the platform or you're not getting any money. Democrats are starting to do the same thing, trying to get back a grip to keep the party together. I'm telling you, Trump's a genius. Let them go commie, use them, call them commie, becomes the perfect talking point for a campaign, and then throw the hammer at them because they were all Democrats. He's got, this is going to be amazing summer.
I agree. I couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say, Mayor?
Going to be a lot coming out.
There's going to be a lot coming out. And if you guys think that this DSA, if any of you are concerned about the DSA, well, first of all, I'll say this. It's just the beginning. They are going, I would argue they got more money. They got more financial backing than even the blue tent at this point.
Right. But it's all dark.
I know it's all dark. But these two, these individuals that came out in Colorado and the individuals that came out in New York, just the tip of the iceberg. Make no mistake, I'm fairly confident stating this as fact that they got probably they're established in almost all 50 states, guys. So
Well, we already
more.
know that. There's a branch, and we've also seen examples where CPUSA, even though they're kind of supposed to be polarized, right? They're actually saddling up together. They're using the infrastructure of both. So I don't think you're going to get away from this summer thinking Trump doesn't have a handle on things, nothing is happening. We've been pointing out the obvious that that's a wrong statement anyway, but I think with what's about to happen is going to be the biggest election coup Trump can pull. Why? Because he doesn't have to go after his opponents on policy. He's weaponizing compliance. There's no better way of stating it.
Even Trump himself said something. He is the nominee, but Dems may push him out regarding Plattner, but that the Dems themselves
Are pushing him out.
may push him out just like they did in 2024. Dems recruit bottom of the barrel
They did it
candidates.
in 2016 with Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. So
This isn't a new playbook.
yeah. It's just different players. So on top of that, a couple other things to keep an eye out for. You got the trial has begun there with Tyler Robinson.
It's not a trial yet. It's preliminary hearing.
Preliminary. Did you see Trump floating a restraining order against Maloney during a NATO summit? Did you see that? That was so funny.
No, I did not.
So it's a meme.
It's a meme.
It's again, it's a photo out of context, but she's looking.
What is he
up
doing?
at him.
Reclaiming his time?
No, he's like over here talking and she's looking up at him, but the camera shot, she has this dreamy look on her face. So he made a meme saying, "Do I need a restraining order?" And she's
I
looking
want
up
to
at
see
him
that.
like,
Share screen and show it to
"I
me.
love you,
Share screen and show it to me. I want to see that.
It was freaking amazing. All right, let me see if I can find it.
hilarious. The trolling of
Do I
Melania.
need a restraining order? I thought she was googly eyed for Musk.
Yeah.
Well, she used to be googly-eyed for Trump. I mean, has been since she became prime minister.
He wants out of NATO.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does want it. He's already told you that.
He'll find a way.
Yeah, we want him out of NATO.
Well, it isn't an accident that Pete Hegseth started this whole thing by going to Europe, assessing our footprint in Europe. I'm sure Germany is just quaking because without the U.S. presence in Germany, there is no German economy.
That's right.
They're
So-
already hanging on by a thread.
You make them a third world country just like that. Now, talk about leverage. That's good leverage, right?
Okay, so you brought up something earlier since we're spitballing. Sean had looked up the City of London board or the people that are working on it and pointed out that most of them are Muslim.
Right.
A lot of them are.
A lot
of them. Not all of them, but yeah.
The way things are shaking down in the Middle East with the leadership. So Qatar, UAE, the big ones. They are more aligned with Trump. Do you see them cutting off the finances with rogue elements in Europe that might be funding bad elements? Let's just keep it real broad.
Okay, so you've got to look at it from two different perspectives. What is City of London? It's the financial plumbing.
Correct.
So while you've got a board that has a lot of Muslims on it, they're getting their direction from outside of City of London.
Right.
This is why I keep bringing up Brussels. But are they the
Play
complete
them tonight.
boogeyman?
We're going to smash them.
Right. But are they the complete boogeyman? No, actually, there are U.S. factions, our NGOs, AI, the tech companies out of Silicon Valley, Wall Street. They're actually the ones that are more driving this
Okay.
than it is. Brussels has their sticky power with the rules. London has their financial plumbing with the shadow banking network. But the people that are actually driving it are internal. There's the enemy from within.
Yeah.
And that's what I was trying to pull out for the second part of the deck was to put some perspective on this global issue we're facing, and which is creating consternation over in Europe. You've got to ask the question, if Brussels was totally against Trump, then why did they just vote unanimously to start mass deportations?
Let's see if they enforce it. That's where I hang up. I'm like,
but
they
still,
draw,
I
but-
mean, if it was the entity everybody thinks it is, they wouldn't have even had the vote.
Oh, also, did you see where Germany took the knee and now they're going to show the movie, the controversial movie? I saw that this afternoon.
Yeah.
Did you watch that when we played it, Mayor?
No, I haven't yet.
Oh, you didn't? You
And the
still haven't
violent
watched
one?
it in general.
I've seen a couple clips and I've watched interviews with the director.
Are you talking the violent one, Vigilante?
Yeah. Vigilante.
Yeah, I'm not watching it.
You don't need to
I
watch
actually went into AI and said, please summarize this movie so I don't have to watch it.
Right. I watched Pierce
That's
Morgan
all I know.
I think I sent you that clip on Telegram, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
But he had the director on,
Yeah.
and he had the other pundit that's super obnoxious. I don't know if he's CNN or MS now, but he's
Oh, gosh.
he apologizes for terrorist factions. You know what I mean? Like he's
Yui Vol, the director?
no. He was defending his position against the so-called journalist that always does. You know him if you saw him. He's a Muslim and he always screams Islamophobia whenever you say him.
Chunky yogurt.
No, different one. There's so
Okay.
many to choose
Yeah,
from.
there is.
And this one actually works for traditional corporate media. It's on PBD spouting a bunch of crazy crap a few weeks back.
I know
how
who you're
PBD
talking
put up
about.
with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway. But he was going after the director, and the director was saying, well, it's got nothing to do with Islamophobia. I'm actually showcasing a literal crime that was committed 3 years ago in Germany. This is a factual case.
Yeah.
This entire thing is based on. This
Mehdi
this
Hassan.
keeps
Yep.
happening.
Thank you,
Yes,
Mehdi
thank you.
Hassan, guys.
Thank you, Sean Joe.
Yeah.
The chat always knows.
Which the term Islamophobia is, it's not even accurate anyways, because it's phobia refers to an irrational hatred or an irrational fear, I should say.
Okay, so let me put this out there. So you now have the term in the zeitgeist Islamist
Yeah.
to separate from traditional peaceful Muslim factions. You have the Islamists, which are the hard lines that are more prone to the terrorist thing. So is Islamophobia incorrect?
I think so.
I'm just saying, like, if the
Well,
Islamophobia
yes, I do think Islamophobia is incorrect. Why? Because it paints the entire group.
Yeah.
Just like anti-Semitism is incorrect.
Yeah.
You're painting the whole group, and you're not actually discussing or describing or explaining the different factions and where they come from.
Right.
And as long as you can paint the whole group and keep the factions quiet,
Straw man
that's what
argument.
they get to do, right?
Yeah.
They get to hide in the weeds and come
It's
back out at a second
intellectually
time.
lazy, just like
Right.
which oh man, I had a beautiful moment this weekend where I shut down one of these individuals who likes to blame everything on the Jews, who says, wasn't it the Jews who killed Jesus? And I said, wait a minute. Hold that thought for a second.
Not all Jews.
Hold my beer. Actually, it was God, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it wasn't the Jews. It was God.
What did Jesus say? Kept their eyes closed and their ears, eyes covered and their ears closed, so that prophecy could be fulfilled.
Right. So
it had to happen. It's kind of like
had to happen.
It had to happen that way.
It came out of me. I've never thought about that before until that moment. Nobody had ever said anything like that to me. I just, for some reason, it popped in my head with
divine
ease.
intervention.
It's like I never. It was so weird. I can't explain it. That it just popped in my head in that moment, and it was instantaneous. And I'm like, wow, where the hell did that come from?
He didn't
because you asked God to guide you. But I think a lot of people, because the whole Jew killers, right? The Christ killers, the Jews. This is stuff that gets perpetuated, as you can see, for millennia.
Yeah.
And it keeps a group suppressed.
Divide and conquer strategies. And Machiavellian is so divide and conquer.
So how bold must you be when you take a larger group, like half of America, and call MAGA Hitler?
That's why I don't encourage doing the same thing to libs either, because a lot of people in the chat were former once registered Democrats.
Speak for yourselves, Guy. I was never
All
a
right,
lib.
earmuffs, Feisty. I know you're the best. Anyways,
No, I've never been liberal, in all honesty. But I have family who is, and I've got family who are
and you love
stuff
them
about
regardless.
communist to moderate.
What?
Like I said, ultra conservatives. My family spans the whole gambit. But I will tell you, from the moderate liberal perspective, they make good points, and it's worthy of discussion.
Yep.
If your discussion is only from a critical standpoint, I mean a conservative standpoint, you never get to critically think about options or opportunities.
That's right.
Well, and we complain about them being in an echo chamber. You can't let yourself be in an echo chamber.
Yeah, in my family, that can't be said. There's no echo chamber.
It goes back to, what was it? Forgive me on the precise language, but Jesus was saying, how dare you be a hypocrite? You know, you're pointing out a splinter in someone else's eye, but you have a plank in yours.
Right.
That rings in the back of my head a lot. I'm like, okay, I gotta go out and make myself look at what is going on and what the opposition is saying, and what are the regular people that are just swept up in the narrative. Where are they at?
Well said.
There it is.
Gotcha, bitch.
Okay, that's hysterical. That is absolutely hysterical.
Oh my.
Anyways,
Yeah, I like that.
shout out to the Donald. The Donald. Thank you, Spin City Third Can. Much love, brother. Says, have a good stream. We are just finishing up. So thank you for the support. Thank you, Adel. Shout out to Adel for the raid. Shout out to Sean Joe for a cookie. Thank you guys for hitting that like. We're going to go raid Johnny in just a moment, who's going live. And I would encourage everybody over on Rumble, please help me help Johnny reach. How many followers he's got? He's almost got 915. We need to get him up to 950. God willing to get him up to 1,000. It shouldn't be that difficult at this point. He's been around on Rumble for a hot minute. So if we can get some people to follow Johnny over on Rumble, that would be great. Final thoughts, ladies. Better yet, Feisty, if you had a message for everybody, what to take from today's show, what would that message be?
Very first thing to do is get on your knees. What we're going through is going to be earth-shattering. It's going to have a lot of people confused because they've all bought into all this propaganda. You want to get on your knees and ask God to allow you to be a vehicle to help bring sanity back around, because it's going to take our little groups. This isn't something from a top down. This is a bottom up. This is what was going on. This is what was happening, because people are going to be shaken. And I just want to caution everybody. We've been watching a lot of activity for a very long time, but now we're seeing it culminate. And I think it's a good time to put yourself in a position to have wise and appealing words to give others.
Amen to that. Wow, well said. Mayor Bear, if there was a message you wanted everybody to take from today's show, what would that message be?
Well, I think Feisty's statement was beautiful.
Agreed.
I think the hardest pill to swallow is the one you thought you already
That sounds
swallowed.
familiar.
Well said.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. I've been saying it for a while.
Yeah, I coined that back in 2018 and got
I didn't know
ratioed. Ratioed for saying that.
Well,
But just like opening your mind, don't get stuck in
Right.
one narrative. Try not to get stuck in one narrative. And again, it goes back to what I was saying about the plank in the eye and the whole thing, because we get stuck in one thing, and maybe we learned it when we first woke up and we've just stuck with it. And it's repeating. But just be open, because none of us are going to have everything correct. None of us are.
Okay.
We're all going to be wrong about something. So just accept that and be open.
yeah.
And do your best and be okay. I believe getting on your knees is an excellent way to work through it.
Surrender. Well said. Amen to all that. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Feisty. Thank you both for a hell of a show. And looking forward to next Monday already as it is. So, Feisty, I'll see you on Thursday. Mayor
Yes,
Bear.
sir.
Guys, make sure you go check out Giggle Blitz. Cough, cough. I mean, Truth Blitz every day at 1 p.m. Eastern, except for Wednesdays. But you'll see Mayor Bear and Krista tomorrow, right, at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then stay tuned because we got Feisty and Mayor going to be starting up a new show of their own soon. Looking forward
Next
to
month,
that.
hopefully.
Yep,
We're goaling for next month.
that's right. So thank you, ladies. God bless. I'll talk to you both soon.
Have
Sound
a good
good?
day.
See you, everybody.
All right, everybody. Good night. Much love. Stay safe. Stay dangerous, Patriots. I'll see you tonight at 9:30. Peace.
Whispers in the static, questions in the fire. The veil is torn and the seeker never tired. Scrolls of the ancients carved into stone. She reads between lines while the empire grows. The priesthood of medicine, prophets of law. She claws through the curtain, exposing the flaw. No map, no guide, just shadow she tracks. Every thread pulled is a world turned back. The faithful will know, though the words may be few. To the blind, every truth is a riddle untrue. Claws of reason, eyes of flame, unmasking the player in the shadow game, where the silence breaks, the hidden shake. She names the unspoken, the world away. Historian's eye on the ruins of men, cycles repeating again and again. Digital soldier, a phantom, a spark, a voice through the wires ignites the dark. Voice of iron, breath of dust, piercing the empire built on rust. Keeper of the flame, she stakes her claim, illuminates the nameless, calls them by name. Through Babylon's towers, through Rome's broken gates, she carries the question that history hates. No creed, no tyrant, no mask will remain. When the feisty one whisper your true name. Claws of reason, eyes of flame, unmasking the players in the shadowed game, where the silence breaks, the hidden shakes. She names the unspoken,